What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this one I wanted to talk about something a little bit different than what I usually talk about on my channel. This video is definitely not going to be as fitness oriented as most of the videos that I make, but I think that it is a very important topic to address and talk about because it's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially in today's society. It's something that's taboo. It's not talked about very often. And I think that eventually becomes an issue just because a lot of people feel a lot of shame around this topic, so they tend to talk about it as little as possible. And that doesn't help people when it comes to just feeling alone and isolated in their struggle with these things. So I wanted to make this video and kind of talk a little bit about porn and why you should stop watching it. Now, there's two different approaches that I want to take with this video. I'm going to be giving a practical approach, and then I'm also going to be giving a religious approach because I believe that there are both reasons from a practical standpoint as well as a religious standpoint why you should try to stop consuming porn altogether. And I know that the religious argument obviously might not be accepted by those of you who aren't religious. And that makes total sense to me. I have no issue with that, but like I said, that's why I want to base it around both being practical and then also having the religious side of things. Now, when it comes to porn addiction, there are some people out there that will tell you that porn isn't even addictive, which is absolute nonsense. Now, I personally have never struggled with it to the point where it has become what I would label a severe addiction. It's never had a massive negative impact on my life. But the truth is, I have felt the downsides of it, and I have done my best to steer as clear from it as possible, although I have had my struggles with it. And when it comes to just porn in general, it's a very, very tricky subject. Now, the first thing that I want to say is that with porn, it's a constant battle. It's something where when I was in high school, I basically realized, okay, this isn't something I'm just going to be able to ask God for forgiveness or strength to battle, and then it's just going to eventually go away. This is something that I am going to have to be in active war against for the rest of my life. I'm going to be having to constantly stay alert. I'm going to have to keep my guard up because it is able to sneak into my life when I let my guard down and when I least expect it. So that is one thing that you are going to have to keep in mind, is that if you are at the point where you're like, oh, I just can't completely kick porn, like I just can't completely get it out of my life, that is probably never going to happen. The truth is, every single day is a battle. Every single day you should have your guard up. Every single day for the rest of your life, you will probably be fighting this because we live in a fallen world. And the truth is, we are all going to mess up. And you are probably not going to get to a point where you are like, I am 100% clear. I'm 100% clean of it. Now, when it comes to porn consumption in general, the first thing to start with is that everything that you look at is going to ultimately have an impact on your soul. I believe that the eyes are the doors to the soul, and the things that you consume on a regular basis, whether it's porn or not, are ultimately going to be leading you towards consuming more sexual content. And that's something that a lot of people don't really take into consideration. I personally consider Instagram to be one of the biggest solicitors of sexual content, even though it does not in and of itself allow nudity. There's plenty of content on Instagram that pushes people towards diving down the rabbit hole deeper when it comes to porn. And I am also going to share with you guys the one habit that I adopted that helped me. And whenever I am doing this habit, it is actually something that completely destroys my want to watch porn, and I have found it incredibly helpful, and I hope that you guys find that helpful as well. But first, before we get into that, I want to address the practical approach of why porn is bad for you if you are not a religious person. These are a couple of the reasons why you should definitely be trying to avoid it at all costs, okay? So when you watch porn, you are getting an incredible amount of dopamine released inside of your brain. And basically what that does is it downregulates your dopamine receptors so that over time, what it takes to stimulate you has to be more and more intense. What does this push you toward? It pushes you toward watching even more intense porn in order to get stimulated. And the truth is that once you downregulate those dopamine receptors, you will find that life and experiencing other things that you enjoy, like driving fast cars, hanging out with your friends and family, playing games, spending a day on a beach, all of these things become a lot less enjoyable. And that is a super crappy feeling. In today's society, all of the content, all of the food, everything that we consume on a daily basis is designed to stimulate us as much as possible, to release as much dopamine as it possibly can. We should be on constant alert about the content that is coming through our eyes once again, but also about the food that we are consuming to make sure that we are not expending too much dopamine doing things that are ultimately going to result in an addiction. And that's how people get addicted, is they need to experience the dopamine hit over and over again to feel pleasure. Let me read you this quote by Dr. Charan Ranganath, okay? So he's talking about dopamine here. He says, "It's not all about pleasure. It's about discomfort that energizes you to go get things." Now let's think about, in a practical context, why porn is incredibly destructive just based off of what he said here. If you're getting a massive influx of dopamine, and dopamine isn't all about pleasure, it's about the discomfort that energizes you to go out and get things, where is the problem? Well, the problem is the fact that you don't have to go out and get things. All you need is your phone. All you need to do is sit there on your couch, in your bedroom, in your bathroom, and consume, take in as much pleasure as you want without putting the work in. And if you are constantly sitting down, jerking off, you are not going to be out looking for women because you're getting all of the release that you want. You have access to an entire database where you can go and see thousands of women on the internet. You don't need to go find a woman. There's no reason for that. You can get all of the pleasure from looking at a million naked women from your phone. And this is incredible because this is something that nobody else has had to deal with. When Jesus, for example, walked the earth during the times that the Bible was written, this was not an issue. This is something that we, as a generation, have to deal with. And I would argue that we are going to need an incredible amount of discipline in order to avoid this. A super physiological amount of discipline to deal with having access to things that are so incredibly stimulating and still saying no. And culture will look down on you for that. Culture will look down on you for making healthier choices when it comes to your food. People will tell you, they will say, you're not healthy because you decide not to eat Oreos. What if your body tells you that you want Oreos? You should eat them. It's because it's what your body wants. This is the narrative that culture will try to tell you. They will try to tell you that you have an ED, that you have disordered eating because you don't partake in consuming highly processed, stimulating, dopamine-releasing foods. When in reality, what I would argue is that it is just a surplus of discipline. And you are going to need a surplus of discipline in order to deal with these incredible issues with having access to all this amazing food, with having access to a million naked bodies online. It is going to take getting to the next level in order to deal with this. So from a practical sense, you don't want to experience dopamine depletion because it's going to make you depressed, okay? Now, when you're depressed, your drive is going to go down. I've talked about this in the last video, but here are the 5 pillars for male self-improvement. This is what I live by. I'm constantly trying to build myself up in these 5 areas. Number 1, the physical, the body. We should always be striving for physical excellence. Number 2, the financial, okay? You should always be striving for financial progress. You want to be ascending, whether it is in your career, whether it is in your business. You ultimately want to be able to provide for your family. That is the essence of why you are working. Number 3, the spiritual, the God. You need to be improving when it comes to your relationship with God, whether or not that is whether or not you're a Christian, whether or not you are Muslim, whether or not you just believe there is a God. The truth is everybody needs the spiritual aspect to their life. Without it, so many things fall apart. Number 4, the relational side of things. So the family. This is family, friends. You could refer to this one as the social as well, because you want to be surrounded by good people that are pushing you to go further, to be a better person. Number 5, the mental, the intellect. You should be constantly trying to improve. You should be trying to know more. You should try to become a better version of yourself when it comes to your intellect. All right, so these 5 things all require that you have high drive in order to make improvements on them. There is a drive behind getting yourself to work out. If you are going to sit and watch porn all day, you are going to become depressed to the point where you don't want to lift. You don't really care about bettering yourself, your body, your intellect, your financial situation, your spiritual situation. We'll talk about that a little bit more a little bit down the road. The relational section, you don't really care. You don't care about going out and meeting new people. Why would you care about that? They don't provide as much dopamine as your screen in your bathroom by yourself. The mental side of things, why would you want to learn more when you are experiencing all of the pleasure that you possibly can by yourself in a room? So that decrease in drive affects every single one of these pillars of self-improvement. Every single one of them. It has a massive and profound impact. Now, those are a couple of just like the practical reasons of why you shouldn't be watching porn. Let's get into a little bit of the spiritual side of things. And one of those 5 pillars is the spiritual, so the God aspect of your life. And the truth is, watching porn creates a massive barrier between you and God. And I have felt it before in my personal experience, because the truth is, even if you have gotten to the point where you don't feel extremely guilty every time you consume porn, you are ultimately pushing yourself further away from God. It's very, very difficult to be connected with God and to pray to Him and to feel like you are close and have a relationship with Him when you are doing something that is so counter to your beliefs and to what you deep down know is wrong. As I said, it creates a massive barrier between you and God and will often leave you feeling separated from Him, which is an awful feeling that will wear down on you over time. So how are you going to fix this? Let's get into talking about the solution. And as far as the solution goes, for the practical sake of things, there's a lot of different things that you can do. A practical solution would be to make sure that you are working out every single day, to block porn websites on your phone, to ask somebody to hold you accountable. Make sure that you don't have the time to sit down and watch porn. That's one simple thing. If you find yourself alone in your house with nobody else around, go out and do something. These are all practical ways that you can exercise making sure that you are not putting yourself in a position where you are going to watch porn. But the only thing that has ever given me an incredible amount of self-control, and this is not a practical take, this is a religious take, has been to pray 3 times per day. Now, why 3 times per day? So Daniel, in the book of Daniel, when he is enslaved in the city of Babylon, where a lot of the Israelites feel like God has abandoned them, they long for the promised land, they long to return home. David prays 3 times per day. It says in Daniel 6:10, Daniel always prayed to God 3 times every day. 3 times every day he bowed down on his knees to pray and praise God. Even though Daniel heard about the new law, so the new law was basically you are not allowed to pray to any other god except for the king. He still went to his house to pray. He went up to the upper room of his house and opened the windows that faced Jerusalem. Then Daniel bowed on his knees and prayed just as he had done. This is a perfect description of the exact situation that we are all in as men living in 2024. This is our Babylon. There is temptation everywhere. The dopamine is more tempting than ever. Things are more stimulating than ever. And like I said, we are going to need an extra level of discipline to be able to restrain ourselves from partaking. I personally realized that my want to watch porn is completely crushed. The head of the snake is crushed by God, by Jesus, by the Holy Spirit when I kneel and pray 3 times a day. I just do 3 minutes at 3 separate times per day. Usually it's in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night before bed. I have noticed that that has been the single thing that has helped me the most when it comes to fighting lust. I really, really hope this video helps you guys. It is something, like I said, that I think needs to be talked about more so people don't feel like they're so alone in their struggle, because it's a very isolating struggle. And that's what the devil wants to do. The devil wants to isolate you as much as possible. He wants you to lose hope. He wants you to he wants to make you think that you are the most messed up person ever, that you are beyond sanctification. And that is simply not the case, because you never are. And you are not alone in your struggle. I urge you to build up walls, build up your fortress, and guard the gates. And the more that you look at women, the more that you go to the gym, the more that you objectify the women that you just see during your daily life, the more likely that you are going to fall to lust. Beware the open gates. If you guys like this video, make sure to drop a like down below, as well as a comment. Let me know what you guys thought of it. If you are someone who is not religious, I hope this video did not make you too uncomfortable, and I don't want you guys to feel like I am trying to force something on you, which is why I tried to take the practical approach. But I genuinely hope that you guys are able to find peace with this problem and feel like you are